Let's talk about Heat, Pedal to the Metal, a Formula One deck building game. Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald. In this episode, we're going to talk about Heat, Pedal to the Metal, which is a Formula One racing game where you move your cars by playing cards from a deck that slowly builds up heat as you play. Here is the box for Heat, Pedal to the Metal, and this is a game that you can play with between 1 and 6 players. It plays with kids aged 10 and up, and you can play games in only about an hour. Let's take a deeper look at Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Heat is a light to medium racing and deck building game, and it's very large, so you can only see a part of the map. I'll take some pictures so that you can see what this game is all about. You've got these little Formula One racing cars, and you're trying to get them across the finish line first. The winner of the game is the one who gets across the finish line and goes the farthest. And so that's what you're doing here in this game, is you're playing cards to move these cars around the track and be the first one to the finish line. It's very modular. So I say light to medium. You can make it more complicated. You can customize your cars. There's all kinds of things you can do before you start to play the game and during the game that add some wrinkles to it. You've got several maps. This board is double-sided, and there are 2 double-sided boards in the box. Each one tells you how many laps you're expected to do, how many spaces are on the board, how many turns there are. You might add a module that has some road conditions or some weather conditions that make things more complicated for you. But each player is going to have one of these little racing cars, and they're going to have a player board that's helps them to organize their deck that they're going to be building as they play Heat. The player boards in Heat are great. They make things super straightforward and easy to figure out. They've got all the steps for the turn that could possibly come up, with the ones that are mandatory are in gold here in the end. So it's really easy to figure out what you're doing here in this game. Each player is going to have a deck. Now in the base game, all the decks are the same, but as I said, you can add modules where you customize your card. There's a garage phase at the beginning of the game where you can change your deck around a little bit. But you're going to have a hand of cards like this. And you're playing these cards so that you can use the numbers on the top to move your car forward. You start your turn in Heat by deciding what gear you're going to be in. So you can move your gear shift up or down by 1. The numbers here are telling you how many cards you're playing to move forward. So of course, if you can play more cards, you're probably going to move farther along the track. Now, you can move it up 2 spaces instead of 1, but then you're taking heat from the engine and you're going to start putting that into your deck. And as heat builds up here, you're going to find your deck filling up with those heat cards, and they don't allow you to move your car forward. It makes it harder to play. Now you can get rid of heat by slowing down and dropping the gears. If I have some heat in my hand, I can discard those heat cards back into the engine by slowing things down. I could lose 3 if I'm down here in first gear, or 1 if I'm in second gear. But you're going to find yourself taking these heat cards often to allow yourself to move forward and do things in this game. There's a little bit of a push your luck element there, right? Because your deck is filling up with these cards that are not helpful for you. If you ever get to a point where you need to spend heat and you don't have any left, your car's going to spin out, and that's going to drop you down to first gear and slow things down for you. So everyone sets their gear. Everyone chooses which cards they're going to play. If I'm in third gear like this, I can play 3 cards. Maybe I'm going to want to play my 3 highest. I put those face down in front of me. Everyone reveals in turn order. The first player gets to decide first. Here's where I'm going to go. I'm moving 10 spaces with those 3 cards that I put in there. I had 2 4s and a 2. You might wind up with a card like this one, a stress card. And the stress cards are like, oh, your driver's not paying attention, and so he's going to be moving a random number of spaces. So if you play one of these stress cards and you have a few in your deck, what that's going to allow you to do is just draw the top card and add that to your movement. So I've got a 4 and a 2 here, so I could move 6, but that stress card allows me instead to move 9 because I drew a 3. But there's a 0 card in here. You really are gambling. You don't know where you're going to go. The other thing that happens in Heat is that The tracks are made more complicated by turns. Each track has a certain number of turns that you have to get around. And there's a line here, a thick line with the number around it. What that number means, there's a number 3 above this. Hopefully you'll be able to see this on the camera. There's a number 3 above this turn. And what that means is if I go through this turn and I've moved 4 spaces, then I'm going to have to add 1 heat because I'm kind of trying to slam on the brakes and get around this turn without lowering my gear. Now, if I really zip through a turn, I'm expected to move through it at only 3. I have to add a heat for each one that I overshot it. So if I played cards totaling 7 because of a stress draw or something like that, I'm going to pass through here. I'm going to have to add 4 heat, and I'll spin out if I don't have enough heat to pay for that. So you adjust your gear, you play your cards, each player reveals and moves. There's a little bit of a catch-up mechanism for the last place player. He gets to move ahead an extra space. You check your turns. You can also slipstream around cards. If you finish like beside or behind, you can move ahead a little bit more, and that's one of the things that you're trying to do in this game. So it's very straightforward in terms of how you're playing this thing. Very easy to teach this game to players even who are new to deck builders. It's not super complicated in terms of how your deck is building up. And if you've got too many heat, you want to lower that gear so that you can discard some of those and get those more useful cards back into your hand. What skills are you working on when you play Heat, Pedal to the Metal? Well, this is a spatial game. You're counting up how many spaces do I have before I get to the turn. The board is very well organized because they do count things down for you so that you know you don't have to count each time. That was one of the things this game always makes me think of Formula D, and Formula D didn't have, I don't think they had all the spaces numbered on those tracks, but Heat does have everything numbered. Everything is very clear. So it is a spatial game, but they do give you some guidance. It is also a game that requires some executive functioning skills. You have to really budget and manage the cards in your hand and think ahead to that next turn. You want to be going as fast as you can, but not too fast. And then you want to use the straightaways as much as you can to get caught up or to get as far ahead as possible. So you are thinking ahead and budgeting your cards and doing a little bit of planning. So it's mild in terms of the executive functions, but those are the skills that you're exercising. The executive functioning demands do get bigger when you add some of those extra modules because of road conditions and because of customizing your car. That really is about planning ahead and thinking ahead. How am I going to maximize what my car can do based on the cards that are in the deck? Final thoughts about Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Well, this is a super thematic racing game. I mean, you've got a gear shift on your player board. You've got cars that look like Formula One cars, and you've got the board has racing goggles. It's very, very thematic, which I really like, and the components are super nice. It is a game that is about the timing of your card plays. You are, like I said earlier, using those executive functioning skills and planning ahead. Do I want to hang on to those low-numbered cards so that the low-numbered cards, you're going to hear car and cards. Do I want to hang on to the low-numbered cards because there's a turn coming up? Do I want to lower my gear to discard some heat? But if I do that, then I'm not going to be as fast on the straightaways. So I really do like that you're thinking about it's strategic in that way. Now, the most recent Formula One game, in fact, I think the last racing game I played was Formula D, which is a game that my kids and I loved to play when they were younger. And in that game, rather than playing cards, you're rolling dice. Larger dice with larger numbers depending on what gear your car is in. And so it's very much, that's Formula D is a game that's really, there's some strategy to it, but you're really focused on that push your luck element. You want to go as fast as you can without exploding your car. This one does have those push your luck cards, like am I going to draw a heat card, or should I play a stress card and then move ahead at random? But because you know what cards are playing, you know how far most of the time how far or what the range is that your car is going to move. It's more strategic in that way, more based on the timing. Love that. Now, the optional modules I love too. I love a game where you can adjust the difficulty depending on the experience of the players, the age of the players that you're with. They even have rules in the rule book to handicap things so that the experienced player it's kind of more of a level playing field for, the experienced players versus newer players. I think that's great because I want to play games with kids of all ages, and I'm the one who's always teaching people how to play games. And I don't want to win all the time. I want it to be fun for everybody. So I think it's great that you can balance things out in that way. That is really clever, and just the way that you can tailor this game, I think, is fantastic. There's not. I mean, if you like these kinds of deck building where it's all about the timing of the card plays. This is a fantastic game. It is a bit of a table hog. If you've got 4 or 5 people around the table, the board is big. Each player has their player board as well. So it is a bit of a table hog. But other than that, what a great experience playing Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Now, if you have any questions about Heat or suggestions for Brains on Games, you can leave them in the comment section below the video, or you can email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where future episodes will go. The previous ones are up there already. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Facebook page and the Instagram feed. So we're all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, you can head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.